everybody. My name is Ben Stapley, and I'm the Weekend Experience Director at Christ Fellowship Miami. I also got a chance to coach and consult at benstapley.com. But today, I have a chance to talk with this incredible panel of experts. Every month, we have a roundtable conversation and talk about making incredible worship experiences. Today, we are talking with the team that has the hardest time to do it during this COVID/post-COVID season. We're talking with kids, families, pastors, and directors, people who are trying to figure out how to be safe, spacious, and sanitized with little ones. It's hard enough with adults. It's even harder with little ones. I can't wait to hear this conversation and learn from these experts. Before we learn from them, I'm going to have them jump around and introduce themselves. Aaron, why don't you tell us who you are, where you are, and what you do?
All right, my name is Erin, and I'm at Eastside Christian Church in Anaheim, California, and I am the director of our Kidside program. I oversee everything that happens on our main campus, as well as have little dots to people that are on our other 4 campuses that we have. That's what I do.
Hey there, I'm James Hamilton. I'm the kids pastor at Bayside Church in Roseville, California. We have a church with about 7 or 8 campuses. So I get to oversee all kids ministry of 5th graders and under.
Can't help it. Go Bayside. Somebody will get that reference. My name is Natalie Frisk. I'm the curriculum pastor at the Meeting House near Toronto, and I'm also a lead pastor of one of our campuses.
And I'm Stephanie Moreno, and I am the Children's Ministry Director at Christ Fellowship Miami, and we have 6 campuses across Miami.
And I'm Susie. I have the privilege of being the kids and special needs pastor at Lakewood Church, oversee birth through middle school on our 7 campuses, as well as special needs for all ages.
Incredible. Thank you again, panelists, for being here. Also, people tuning in, if you do not follow these church leaders, do that now. You're going to get great information from them during this talk, but also follow up with them. Follow them on social media. I'm sure you'll get additional information from there as well. Hey, team, but we're going to talk about COVID, reopening, not reopening, what is working, what is not reopening. Before we look at the future, let's all humble ourselves. We've been in the game for a while now. Tell me one thing that didn't work for you in your involvement in kids or family ministry, because oftentimes we learn best from our mistakes. So humble yourselves. Let's jump around. What's one thing that did not work for you?
Okay, well, I can go first. I feel like in children's ministry, you probably can say that we have a lot of these because we are always looking for innovative ways to be relevant and to reach kids. And so if we aren't messing up, then we're messing up. We're not doing something right. And so I think the most recent failure that we've had, or something that just didn't work, was actually during this time that our physical campuses were closed due to the pandemic. And we realized that we had like no way to track online kids first time guests. And so we were like, okay, like let's come up with a process to track and connect some of our kids, like first time guests that are watching online. But we're working with kids, not adults. And so it's kind of like creepy, right? To get kids information online. And so it's like a very delicate like process that we had to come up with. And so we came up with this form and we got kids excited online to get their parents to fill it out and get all their information so we can connect them. But after putting it together, thinking it through, I think we've had like 2 families fill it out or something like that. And so clearly not fruitful. We're back to the drawing board. So I think that was like the most recent failure that we've had.
Awesome. I can share. We, as we went into this season, we were looking for ways to engage kids, and being in a place where we've never done anything like this before, we're a little bit probably late to the YouTube channel game. And so we decided this is a great time to launch a YouTube channel. And so, but what do you put on it? And so, because we were not putting our curriculum at the time, so we decided to create a show. And so that'll be fun. Everybody will watch it because they miss us and want to see our faces, and they like us so much, like we think so highly of ourselves, right? and so we created this YouTube show that we did every Friday that we called The Upside. And one of our staff he did a great job with it. He did the best he can with an iPhone, and created a show, and he built stuff and talked about stuff, and and it never really it never really took off. And a few kids watched it, gave him something to do during this time, but I don't know that we would put it in the successful category.
I'm only laughing because I feel all of your pain. I can say that when we first, started out during this pandemic, we were like, we need to bring groups online as quickly as possible. And so the first Sunday we headed into it for our middle schoolers, having no sweet clue what we were doing with Zoom, and found that we were hosting a couple hundred middle schoolers, which was amazing that they actually signed on. It was just that we didn't know how to actually break them out into breakout rooms, and then realized that our subscription didn't actually match what our capabilities were. And so for an hour trying to keep middle schoolers engaged at one time, that was trial by fire. We learned a lot that day.
Yeah, I think as kids ministry leaders, one of the biggest jobs that we have is putting the right people into the right place. I have a pre-COVID experience where I put the wrong person into the wrong place. So I think I learned that enthusiasm doesn't trump ability. So I had a volunteer who was very enthusiastic, that wanted to be a teacher, that wanted to communicate with first to third graders, wanted to be a storyteller, came with lots of enthusiasm. And I just thought, well, yeah, that's great. Let's put him on stage. And then what proceeded after that was a complete train wreck for 3 straight services, inappropriate political comments, just complete waffle, terrible object lesson. And so I learned that you need to put the right people in the right place for their sake and for your ministry's sake.
So, James, what you're saying is talent should not be saying what political party they're voting for from the stage. Is that what I hear you saying?
Well, I'm from the UK, so I'm not saying anything else political from this moment forward.
I'm a Canadian who's been living in the States for 15 years, and I've learned to do that over time as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. I love that vulnerability, everybody. I also love the head nodding that went on there. I think that we're all, which is nice, right? We're all making the same mistakes. But here's a really nice thing. The fact that you guys shared those mistakes, I'm sure a lot of churches listening in will have now learned to jump over that hurdle as they see it come down the road. So thank you for that vulnerability and sharing that. I really feel we learned the best from our worst oftentimes. Hey, so let's jump in and ask some questions. We kind of structured this 2 ways. First of all, the churches who have reopened and the ones who haven't reopened. So we'll focus in on that first. The 3 churches that have reopened, Meeting House, Liquid, and Eastside. Why don't you tell us, first of all, why sorry, we're going to look at the ones that haven't reopened, Meeting House, Liquid, and Eastside. Why don't you tell us why you haven't reopened, and then more importantly, how you've been engaging people while you've been exclusively online, I think now for coming on like 10 months at this point.
Mm-hmm. I can go. Originally, I think first off, I want to say that probably the reason at the beginning is maybe not the reason anymore. So at the beginning, I think that we wanted to, we had so many visitors attending online stuff that when we came back, we didn't want that first time that visitor showed up on our campus to be wonky and not an experience that represented Eastside. Eastside is really about the loss and really about the visitor and really about their experience. And so we wanted to be real careful that we weren't giving somebody a funky experience. And I think from the very beginning, as we looked forward, that's all we could see was, this is going to be a funky experience. I think now that we've all settled in and it's all a little bit normal, we are now looking at ourselves and asking ourselves, okay, how do we come back now? Like, now's the time, I think, because it's not going to be a funky experience for people as much because everyone's kind of settled into it. So that was kind of, I think we also wanted to be, we wanted to love our neighbors. We wanted to obey what we felt like the state and the government was asking us to do. And so And I think now we're even reevaluating some of those kinds of things a little bit, just to ask ourselves, like, we may never get to yellow, and yellow may never be attainable. And so, like, if yellow is never attainable, we have to come back at some point. So what are the new eyes and lenses that and the criteria that we're looking at to decide when is the best time to reopen? So those discussions are happening now, but I think we're in a different place than maybe when we were at the beginning. So.
I'll jump in next. I didn't get to share my epic fail, but I can just yes and amen everybody's epic fails, because we just, we fail fast, and then we learn from those, and we dust ourselves off, and we jump into hopefully success that is coming soon. So like
Natalie, the only reason I cut you off is because I know the meeting house does nothing wrong, and so I was just moving the conversation along.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm often forgotten. It's fine. That's fine. I'm just kidding. Similar to what Aaron said, so much of the sameness of we chose not to meet. In Canada, kind of everything got shut down initially, right? And I think somewhat similarly in the US, but like nothing was happening. And so there wasn't even the option to keep your church open or anything like that. So we shut down. We have 20 campuses. Of our 20 campuses, probably 15 of them meet at movie theaters. And so it's movie theaters are gross. Like, I don't know if you're very aware of how gross, but they're really disgusting. So one of the things for us was just looking at where we're at and what we have opportunity to do, and then what that means for the kids in the mix, the families in the mix, and saying, is this wise at any juncture in the near future? And we just said, you know what, it's not right now. We wanted to make the most loving decision, and I recognize that for different churches, the most loving decision for their communities can look different, and that's okay, right? Like, but for us, our most loving decision for our community was to remain online and encourage people, really strongly encourage people to gather together in really small groups. We call them huddles, like 3 to 5 people. And even with our kids, we encourage family huddles, or our kids' small groups to gather together in huddles. So different ones of our parishes have made available different things for the kids. So we have, small group leaders who are Zooming with a group of kids. We have small group leaders who are getting together in real life in a park with a handful of kids. We've been writing notes and letters, like physical, actual, remember that old school thing of a letter writing time, and sending those to kids. And then we're doing these just kind of pop in different opportunities. So for Halloween, we're doing a costume drive-through party. I'm trying to be Ms. Frizzle. I'm really gotta get a dress together anyway. And so stuff like that. We've also had some really cool, maybe we can talk about this later, maybe, but some really cool opportunities with this idea of like family camp weekends, where we've been hosting online kind of like a family enrichment weekend, but calling it like a family camp, and getting parents and kids engaging together in activities and then sharing what they're doing online. So it's been really cool. Lots of energy there. So.
Natalie, that's super helpful. One of the things I saw down here in the States was the AMC movie theaters they're so kind of cash strapped that they're allowing you to rent their facilities for $99. I think it's for an hour. And the first idea I had was, wouldn't it be awesome if I could do Mario Kart on there with my friends? And then I had a more spiritual understanding of the situation, and we're kind of looking at that from a cost benefit analysis. Do we, we thought about planning churches, do we rent these movie theaters that are relatively inexpensive? Are you guys, since that is already part of your expansion model and your campus launch model, are you guys doubling down in that, or because it's cheaper, or is that not a reality in Canada?
No, I don't know if it's reality or not, but I think in a nutshell, we're saying, let's use this time to like not completely blank slate, but like really examine where we are, what we're doing. Is there a community center that would be a better space for us and a better offering of our funds to a community center than to somewhat wealthy theaters, although declining in wealth during this time. So no, we're using this time as like a what exists, and what can we do, and where do we serve best, and what's the most loving picture of who we can be for our communities. And so a little bit blank slate, it's kind of fun and exciting.
Got it. Susie, I know up there in Liquid, you guys are half and half. The adult experience has reopened, but the kids hasn't. Why have you guys postponed that? And then how are you still keeping them engaged online while you're exclusively online?
Yeah, so 3 out of our 7 locations are open actually for the first time this past Sunday in person indoors. We've been doing some outdoor services. And so for us, really, the decision revolved around we just felt like toddlers really are not created for social distancing and could not imagine a world where we could actually make that work in our locations. Um, some of our locations are portable, and so some of those places we don't even have access to still currently. And then even how do you make that work for children in that type of portable experience? And then the larger one for us really is that we have a large special needs population. And so we are an inclusion model. And so we could not, for the life of us, figure out how to keep our kids with special needs safe and those that are a little bit more at risk during this time. And so yeah, we've just poured all of our energy into everything online. It's been constant thinking outside of the box, nonstop. We've tried all kinds of crazy things. We've really zeroed in though more on the parents, because recognizing that we only used to have an hour a week, right? We still only have an hour a week online, and so we've really turned a lot of our efforts toward supporting the parent during this process. So for a while we were doing daily parent prompts with different activities and things. We did Zoom lunchroom time to give parents a break. Their kids could jump on to Zoom for a lunchroom. We did boredom busters all summer long, where there were like crazy activities every day for kids to do on their own. When school started up again, we did a question of the day to kind of just get a meaningful conversation started during the day. And then this fall, we shifted to subscription boxes. So for each phase of curriculum, we have a box where the family can come to an event that's specifically designed for them. And it's just a short opportunity really for our kids to see their leaders through glass. But really a fun time at the same time to be able just to connect in that way. And the subscription box is really kind of like extra credit for what we're doing online. So there's still online groups happening every Sunday. But we really enjoyed being able to give them a little extra for the parents to say like, here's your box, now go have fun with this. And then we've also just really amped up our support with parent devotionals as well, just to have our staff write, parents who are on staff just share the struggles that they're going through and constantly point them to Jesus. So it's been an adventure for sure. And it's fun to think outside the box like this.
I love how you've normalized the tension that we're all in, and having parents not just share the stories of success, but the stories that we're all in of struggle. That is a great way to meet people where they're at. And speaking as a parent, I can't wait to read some of those myself as well. What I hear all of you saying is that a couple things. You've had to step up some of the resources that you've given people. Two things. First of all, if you have any of those resources, share them with me, and I'll put them in the show notes so that so we empower other churches to do this. And if you guys have stumbled along great resources where you haven't recreated the wheel, has anyone found a good place, a treasure trove of great resources that you guys have relied on that you could give as well? I'm just going to throw that in right now. That's not a question on our list, but anyone out there?
We found a lot of really helpful resources from the parent queue. So we use the Orange curriculum, and they just come out with such really great, like relevant, like blog articles and just things that we've passed along to, to our parents. Really important, like conversations that just happening right now with whether it's like, social injustice, or whether it's about anxiety because of the pandemic, or just, different things that kids of different ages may be struggling with. They've been coming out with some great and helpful content. So we go there a lot to check what they have.
We actually create our own curriculum and offer midweek parent connection points and things like that, and our stuff is available right now. It's online, it's free for any churches or parents to connect in with. It's simply found at curriculum.church, and you can connect in with that stuff. But another place that I love a lot, and oh my gosh, I love their books, and I love their resources for like coloring pages and simple like cutoutable crafts, are tinytruthsbible.com. They are amazing and a gift and brilliant and fun. tinytruthsbible.com.
Super helpful. Thank you for that, guys. That and again, that will empower a lot of people. Hey, for those 3 churches that have not reopened, what are some of the major things that you're considering as you're looking towards reopening? What are some of the factors that you're considering in relationship to that?
I think we're looking at room usage and how we're coming back, and numbers, and how many chairs are you doing, and what percentages of kids, and figuring out how to best use our spaces. As we look at coming back, we're looking at potentially coming back at 50%. And so looking at room capacities and how many kids does that mean I can actually put in a room? And does it even make sense to use that room? Because now I can put 2 leaders and 3 kids in that room, and that doesn't even make sense. So I need a bigger room, I mean, to be able to get a little bit more people. So we're looking a ton at room usage, and how we're looking at all focus is a lot around room capacities, because we're inside. And so, because even like, how do I do pickup? Because if we have a bunch of kids in a room, and then our normal way of picking up is we let the kids or the parents come into the room, come in, find your kid's stuff, and then check out on your way out. Well, if I add a whole bunch of parents into the room, now I'm over room capacity. So now I got to rethink how's the flow of that handle? And so we're looking at moving things around, and putting different ages in different rooms, and kind of moving our whole children's ministry around, just to be able to accommodate the amount of kids that will, represent however many chairs and we have available when we're open. So that seems to be kind of a big one. And then obviously the obvious one, I think, is the safety and the cleanliness. We bought electrostatic sprayers, and how to turn rooms around fast. And all those kinds of things. Are we going to require temperature checks? Are we going to make the nursery people wear full length, no skin to skin contact? Just all those kinds of questions. How far are we going to go? Where's the line? What makes sense? Because I mean, Susie was right. You can't social distance kids. And so like, are we removing the tables and chairs out of the room? Because if we just take the tables and chairs out of the room, then we don't have to clean them. And it keeps kids moving around and not all huddled around a table, which wouldn't be really social distance. So we're really looking at kind of asking ourselves some of those kinds of questions, as everyone is, I'm sure.
Super helpful. Meeting house. What about you guys?
Yeah, all of what Aaron just said. And I think also just like the level of comfort that our own parishioners have, or our community has. The last time we did a survey, over 50% of people said they're not interested and willing to come back yet. And so with the remaining number, if we set things up for them, chances are at present with numbers, we wouldn't be able to have the volunteers to run the stuff that we would want to run. And I feel passionately about this, and I'm speaking kind of from my own heart, not necessarily as a representative. I mean, representing the meeting house as a whole always, but we're kind of in this zone of, unless we can all meet, and I don't necessarily mean 100% of our people, but all people as far as ages and stages, unless we can meet as from birth till are much more chronologically mature individuals, then we don't want to, because that's only part of the church. And so it is a lot to grapple with, and it's a challenge. And we're just trying to continue to look through the lens of what is the most loving approach for our people. What's wise when it comes to just like stewardship, because we rent locations. So is that a wise use of our funds? But also caring deeply about the actual community that we have, and pulling people together, and not wanting anyone to feel like well, the church is open, I have to go physically now, but they may not be ready to go. So we're still in a little bit of a wait and see, which can feel awful, but I actually think that because in Canada, we're going to be going into like hibernation season too. There is kind of the gift that we actually will have at least online church every single Sunday, whereas during our regular winter, we might miss 3 or 4 Sundays as a result of this crazy stuff called snow or ice that happens to us. So we're actually going to be able to have the Sunday services every week. And then we have our home churches that meet online, and then we can get our kids connecting online and maybe getting our kids connecting to go tobogganing together and cool stuff like that. So it's a wait and see, and in the lens of love.
Tobogganing. That sounds so fun. Got me hyped up for Christmas already. I think it's 60 days left, but who's counting? Who's counting? I'm counting. You flagged two things. It's like I'm counting. You flagged two things that was helpful in terms of the poll, Natalie. First of all, if you haven't polled your people, poll them so you make a data-driven decision. And the second thing is, I think probably a lot of us did that the first month of COVID. Like, hey, when do we? Well, it's been like 9 months now, right? So if you haven't done that in a while and you haven't reopened, probably now is a good, because a lot has changed in this past 9 months. And if you're going based upon that data to make decisions, a lot has changed since then. And then the last thing is make sure to poll people what they want to do in terms of attending. Hey, are you going to let your kid come back, and volunteering? We found it was a third for us. A third of volunteers would come back right away. A third in a couple of months, and then a third when a vaccine came. And I got a feeling that's probably pretty similar as well. So you can't just structure your reopening for the attendance in mind. It's a nonprofit. What our volunteers are going to do? Are they going to come back as well? Because obviously their level of anxiety is going to be higher because they're hands-on with the kids as well. Susie, land the plane here with us. What about you guys? What are you reconsidering? What are the factors coming in as you look to reopen at Liquid for Kids?
Yeah, so it's, everything that everyone has already mentioned, surveying our parents, having a good read on that, following also kind of what are the trends with our local school districts, what are they seeing and experiencing, because we don't have to pay the stupid tax, they are. So, for us, it's like, well, let's learn from what they're learning and make the most of that. I think too, the other thing that for us, it's really considering our reach. Are we able to actually reach more children online right now than we are in person? And for us, that answer is that we're able to reach more online right now. Hopefully there'll be a day where they can be side by side and not, one greater than the other. But that's the big one for us.
Super helpful. Hey, let's pivot. We had to. Sorry, I had to, guys. I had to. We talked about the churches that have not reopened yet. Let's talk to the churches that have. Christ Fellowship Miami and Bayside. What is something that you guys did not anticipate? What's a hurdle that you did not see that you've had to jump over, and tell that so churches who are looking to reopen, they can avoid that down the road?
Well, I think it's funny that you guys were talking about surveys because we did a survey to our volunteers of they were willing to come back. And like over 50% of them said yes, that they were like ready to come back. And so one of the things that was really surprising to us is that when we actually reopened, 50% were actually not ready to come back. And so I don't know if that was like an emotional response that they put that like in their hearts. They really wish, like they're thinking of church from before. And so they want to say, yes, we want to come back and serve and see if kids. But when it came down to making that decision, they're really not ready. And so that was kind of surprising, to us, but the Lord's been so good to provide, the volunteers that we need for the kids we have right now. Not our entire children's ministry is open right now, just our elementary. So we're opening in phases. And so we kind of have like the perfect amount for what we have right now. But that was kind of surprising to us that like 50% were definitely not ready to come back.
Yeah, that's helpful, Steph, that people skew surveys in a favorable light and more. So whatever your results are, knock them down a bit. Thanks for flagging that. James, what about you? What's something that was unexpected for you guys?
Yeah, I think I agree with Stephanie. I think it's we underestimated the enthusiasm for our volunteers to come back. We've been open about 3 or 4 months now, and it's been, what I would advise is really it's just baby steps. It's not feeling like you've got to recreate what you had pre-COVID, but take a look at, okay, what can you provide? What resources do we have as far as volunteers? What rooms are you willing to open? And you set the capacity. So we started out just we were reopening in person before we did kids ministry, but the day we launched the kids ministry, we started outside on a lawn, and we very carefully split the kids up and volunteers up, and realized that we were just being way over the top as far as like creating a very false experience. So the week after we actually brought it in, we still had very careful, very low capacity numbers. But what we found is as soon as we opened those gates, there was a lot of enthusiasm. So that wasn't representative of our surveys. So one of our campuses, the first day they opened, we had something like 95 kids and 97 volunteers. So there were more volunteers than kids. I know that's completely unheard of in kids ministry. That was an anomaly.
James, send them our way. Send them our way.
Well, I need them at my campus. But I think it's like what we have learned is really we've slowly, piece by piece, been rebuilding what we do, and I think it really all comes down to confidence. Is building confidence first of all is in your staff, as you as a leader. Of what do we feel like we can do? Then build the confidence to the parents, build the confidence to the kids, and then the volunteers. So we're now at about 35% attendance of where we were before. So, I know this isn't a question, we just talk about online experience as well. So what we provide, pretty much, we were planning to create an online YouTube show, a bit like you were talking about, Aaron, before COVID hit, and we were probably about 3 months away from actually launching that. And then COVID hit, and it was like, you're doing it now. Next week, we want a show. So we've created a show called The Sideshow. So we have 2 shows. One is Sideshow Junior, which is for preschool kids, and Sideshow is for elementary kids. And that has been hugely successful, and has been something that's really kept our families connected through this time. And what we've actually done is create, like we had a puppet character, we've created certain aspects in that online experience, which we are now transferring into the in-person experience. So what's really cool is now we're creating our own curriculum, and we're using that Sideshow as like kind of the foundation for what we're doing. But what's really, really cool is now as kids are slowly coming back, they're excited to see people who are on the show. They're excited to see artwork that we've been using to market that show. We're actually trying to figure out, how we're actually connecting what we're producing online to in person. And I think that's really important. If you are exclusively online now, is like, how are you then going to like take that audience and create a little bit of transfer to in person? So, and I think also just creating a bit of FOMO, just fear of missing out, is like, I think it's huge. Once you do open, is sell it, absolutely sell it. So take lots of pictures, talk about it online, interview volunteers, tell them, okay, and again, it's build that confidence. Okay, bring your kids. It's okay. We've got this. We're cleaning, we're sanitizing, we're social distancing as much as you can with kids. And actually, this is a great experience. And so I think it's like I said, just slow baby steps. You set the boundaries, you set the capacities, and as you build confidence, you can increase and grow that.
James, I love how you're using your online experience to help grow as you reopen your physical experiences with that artwork digitally and putting it at your physical campuses. That's next level. Love that. Quick question for Stephen, James. As you've reopened, and I'm sure we're all tracking your attendance, my assumption is that wherever the adults is and where they've come back, that kids is a little bit less. Is that a fair assessment? Or are you guys tracking as you've reopened the same percent? If your adults are back at 30, are kids back at 20? What does that look like for you guys?
We're a little lower, just as you said previously, than where adults are. But also not all of our kids' areas open yet. And so I do anticipate our next phase, we are going to open up just the rest of Sea of Kids all the way to babies. And so K4 to babies. And so I think when we open that, I don't anticipate a lot of like babies will come, but I do think that a lot of people are waiting for us to open a preschool, and they have elementary kids, but they just don't want to sit in the main service with their 3-year-olds, and I don't blame them. So I think they're kind of just waiting for the final open, and then I do anticipate that we'll have some more kids come back. But the nice thing has been is what we were expecting is kind of where we're landing, which I think is a really big blessing, because we really just didn't know, like, are we going to get 10%, 20%, 25%? Like, where are we going to land? And so it's just really great to see that, like, our goal number, we hit it. And so I was like, okay, we're getting 25%. Awesome. Praise God. And so it's been really cool to see that. And so now we're anticipating a little bump when we open the rest up.
Yeah. What about you, James? Is your kids tracking a little lower than your adults?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's partly just the demographics of our church as well. Yeah, I would say kind of bigger picture really is like life has changed, and I think as churches we really do have to change our mindset. I think we have to now focus a lot more on engagement than attendance in many ways. And I think what we would love in an ideal world is obviously the COVID to go away, vaccine to come, and we get back to how it was before. And it's all about the measuring the success of your church is on attendance. Well, I just genuinely think we have to start pivoting away from that mindset completely and focus on engagement. I'm sure everyone agrees on this panel. There are a lot of families that have just got really comfortable now, just watching church online at home in the comfort of their home, and out having to drag all the kids out and make them look nice and presentable. And I think that's going to take a long time to bring a lot of those families back. So for me, my expectation isn't necessarily in a very short space of time to slowly get back to 100%. I actually think we may get back to the same numbers, but it'll actually be a different set of people, different group of people who are maybe new to the church. So I see this really as a huge opportunity for outreach to reach families that we've never reached before, because we don't have the capacity, so we can be a little bit more relational. So I think it's an opportunity. I really do. For us at Bayside, it's the COVID, although it's obviously it's a terrible thing, actually it's possibly one of the best things that could have happened to us as a church, because that forced our hand to focus on reaching a lot more people, but just in a different way. And just having them physically in the building isn't the end game, isn't the end goal. It's actually engaging them and being able to help them grow and feel part of a community, even though they're at home.
That's good. Hey, I'm going to have everybody else look into that crystal ball, James. So you're talking about the future. What do we need to right size and reset for our expectations? Anyone else jump in there and tell us what you think? None of us are a prophet per se, but tell us, what do you think, if you with a degree of clarity that you have, what is something within kids and family ministry that has kind of forever been changed because of what we've gone through over the past 9 months?
I actually agree with something that James said a little while ago about moving the online show to the main campuses. And that's kind of something that I think for sure is going to forever change in our church, is like the online church that we put together. We call it Sea of Kids Online. And just the quality of that, like we've had so much time to just focus on it and perfect it. And it's just so great and fun and innovative. And there's no way that we could do that live across all of our campuses. And if the Lord blesses us and we continue to grow and have more campuses, like there's no way that we could just replicate that. And now we don't feel like we have to, because we have Sea of Kids Online. And so it's thinking like, okay, we've kind of transitioned our kids and our families to like this digital platform. And so how can we leverage it like at our actual campuses? And so our large group, I think, is going to forever be changed. And it's going to be like the volunteers and the kids interacting with the online content that we're creating. So I think that'll forever be changed for us.
Yeah, that is actually what we do with our curriculum, because we have 20 different locations, and we want to make sure that it's high quality and that the theology is aligned and that we show genuine value to kids. We create really high quality video content, and then it is shared across all of our locations. So I love what you're saying too, Stephanie and James. In my crystal ball, which feels very much wrong and against everything I believe, Ben. So there we go.
Yet you're
I
still going to answer the
I
question. I see you playing.
Okay, I'm still gonna answer the question. There's a couple things that I see. One, I see that the partnerships that we are building with parents are forever going to be changed and increasingly important. We know how important they are right now, and parents are in such desperate need of just genuine encouragement right now. So amping up our levels of encouragement to parents now, I think, and I hope, will translate into us being more relationally engaged with parents as we move forward as well. And then the other thing that I would say is, I don't, I don't know if we'll ever go back to fully all of the same formats that we have with kids ministry. I think I see, again, a ramping up of like a relationality between small group leaders and kids, even down in the younger levels. That those relationships, though they're important right now, I think they're going to grow in their levels of importance and the ways in which those small group leaders help connect kids back into the church body as a whole.
I would say the same thing. Discipling the parent has become just as important to our ministry as discipling the kids. We used to spend all of our time just on the kids, and it was more of an aspirational goal to partner with parents, and we're finally actually partnering with parents. And I don't think that's going to go away if we want to be relevant in this new world. I also I used to spend all of my time trying to get our kids to come through our doors to connect with another adult, because I believed if I could put another adult in the life of a child, it would be life changing. And so now I'm thinking, how can I put an adult in the life of a child when they're not walking through our doors, who may never walk through our doors? And so it's completely changed our outlook and what we're just looking to do in the future.
Susie, that's helpful. You probably don't have it completely ironed out right now, but as you look forward, are you thinking in terms of that partnership with the kid and partnership with the parent? Is that a 50-50 for you down the road? What does that look like? We have limited resources, right? So what do you think that's going to land for you?
I wish I knew. Yeah, I do. I think that right now we have totally tipped the scale the other way. And so now we're kind of trying to find that, like you said, sort of that 50-50 balance of how do we do both well, and even just reallocating resources and staff to be able to do that.
That is awesome. Hey, we are speaking about landing the plane. We'll land the plane here. One of the themes I've heard from you guys as we've talked, exhaustion, fatigue, worn out, that people need hope, genuine encouragement. Y'all pastors at heart, y'all pastors and titles. Come on, drop on some. A lot of people are listening, and church leaders need that. I would love for you to close out this time by encouraging volunteers, church leaders, anyone who's involved in the kids and family game. Give them some encouragement.
I would say just find it. You got to find it somewhere, you know what I mean? And listen to your body and know what your rhythms are. In this time, I feel like it's about every 6 months or 6 weeks. Sorry, I wish it was every 6 months. It's about every 6 weeks where I'm like, I'm just exhausted. Like I'm just tired. And I listen, and it took me a couple to be like, okay, well, when that happens, then I'm just done today. You know what I mean? And then I told my staff, when you're done, you're done. Like if you get to the wall, don't push past it. Like let's call it a day, take a nap, do something fun, and pick it up again tomorrow, and find the new reason to, you know what I mean? Not that you need a new reason. That's probably not what I meant, but I just think that like if we ignore it or feel bad about it or yucky, or like the fact that we're like really tired and exhausted, and like the mental thinking of trying to constantly reinvent things all the time, and all these new things that we're talking about, doing in ways, I feel like we got to kind of listen to our bodies, and we got to take those breaks, and we got to just find some new rhythms that work. And that's just for everybody.
Erin, I love that. I resonate with what you're saying as well. And I'm like a internally, I'm a perfectionist and I like just things to go a certain way. And I would probably say in 2019, I probably was in a comfortable rhythm, with children's ministry, and 2020 has totally thrown me for a loop, so many times. But what I love about when that happens, even though in the moment I hate it, but what the Lord continually shows me is that in those moments, I'm not relying on myself anymore. It pushes me into a posture of complete dependence on the Lord. And he continuously reminds me, Stephanie, why do you feel like you have to hold it all together? Why do you feel like you have to make all the right decisions? He's not asking us to do that. He's asking us, to rely on him. And so my scripture, I think, for this whole season has been Psalm 62, verse 5. And it says, yes, my soul find rest in God. My hope comes from him. Truly, he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I will not be shaken. And so it's that continual reminder that our hope comes from the Lord and not from ourselves or from what's going on. It comes from him. And so when I feel that way, just overwhelmed, it just, turned my eyes back on the truth that I know.
That's so good. And I think to Aaron's point and Stephanie's point, reminding ourselves that God created this thing called Sabbath. And even though it, may look a little different for us now today, that taking a day isn't going to make us less productive. It is actually somehow making us more productive in that we're surrendering that day, and not to feel guilty about it, but to guard that. That's the one thing that I've done in this season. Never before is I've been guarding my Sabbath day. I've told my community that Fridays are my day, and I won't respond to you out of love for God and love for you. I'm not going to respond to you. The other thing I think I'd say by way of encouragement is that the little things right now are making a massive impact. We did this card writing thing for all of our kids, and I love this story. This one mom texted me, and she told me that her little girl, who's about 2.5, but still pre-verbal, they put the card on their fridge with a magnet at the little girl's eye level, and she goes up to the card and she touches it every now and then she kind of touches her heart, she knows that this is from somebody who really loves and cares for her. Which yeah. Also, I'm just gonna shamelessly plug a book I wrote last year called Raising Disciples: How to Make Faith Matter for Our Kids. I wrote that book for all spiritual parents, and I actually think it's even more relevant right now during this crazy pandemic than when it was written. So I just, however you can get to read that, whether it's even just asking your local library to order it in, doesn't mean that you have to purchase the book. I think just find it and access some of the stuff in there.
I think
Go ahead, Susie.
I think as kids ministry leaders, we are all wired to do constantly. And we've talked a lot about thinking outside the box and all of those types of things. But I think it's when we get so caught up in thinking about what we're doing instead of remembering whose we are. And so that's one thing for me, constantly coming back to my identity in Christ and who I belong to, and focusing more on who I am rather than what I do, because it's so easy when you start to look around at all the great ideas that are out there, or the things that tanked and didn't work that you hoped would work. It's really easy to get discouraged and to kind of put your identity in those things. It's so much easier to measure metrics on Sunday than it is to measure what's happening in our homes right now. And so to really just be able to focus on, no, who am I in Christ, rather than everything that I just produce and do.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. That's phenomenal. I'm going to go all kids pastor on you now, and I'm going to go the 4 B's. So the 4 B's, Bible. So for growth, just read your Bible, be in the Word, prioritize that devotion. Boundaries. So like you said, Natalie, just, there is a Sabbath. Like you need to carve out, you have to make that time for your family. I have 2 young boys. If I'm not intentional with creating those boundaries, then ministry can just overwhelm every aspect of your life. Then be brave. And I would say this is presented as an opportunity to try new things, and we've got an excuse now to be creative. We've got an excuse to actually try out new things and be willing to fail. And I think we can always say, well, that didn't work because of COVID. Never mind, we'll get over it. But be brave. Like I think we do really have to think outside the box and try new things. And then the last B is so tenuous, but it's because. And know what your because is. What is your why? Why are you doing that? And I think so often in kids ministry, you can get caught up in the doing, you forget about why you're doing it. And we're doing this because this is our vision. And I think all of us probably in our ministries have a clear vision. And it's good to evaluate, well, why are we doing that? Is it because we always do it, or is it because it's actually fulfilling what our vision is? So, sorry, that was pretty cheesy, the last one, but...
We're Christians, James. We love alliteration.
Oh, yeah.
You're speaking our language. Come on now.
True.
I love that. Take a break, take a Sabbath, rely on Jesus, remember your identity, recall the why. Those are all very encouraging, rooting things, not only for church leaders. I'm listening as a parent, and I know those are helpful for me. So I thank you for sharing that. We're going to wrap our time up here. I'm going to give a big shout out to the panelists who are all around here. Again, if you are not following them on social media, follow them. You will get additional insights from them there. And we'll see you guys again next month as we talk about creating incredible worship experiences with leaders in the trenches of ministry.